Airplanes are meant to level people, to compress lives and histories into narrow aisles where everyone breathes the same recycled air. But equality at 30,000 feet is an illusion, one that shatters the moment someone decides another person does not belong. On this flight, that moment arrived quietly, wrapped in leather seats and soft lighting, disguised as entitlement. The first-class cabin glowed with warm amber light, polished and deliberate. Seats were wide, armrests solid, space generous. It was designed to feel exclusive, and exclusivity had a way of inviting judgment. Aisha Monroe sat in seat 2 by the window, posture composed, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her boarding pass was tucked away, memorized long before she stepped onto the plane. She had paid for this seat weeks ago, chosen it carefully, and arrived early to claim it without incident. She watched the runway crew through the oval window, their movements sharp and efficient. Travel always stirred mixed emotions for her: opportunity, anticipation, and the quiet preparation for being scrutinized. She had learned that success did not shield her from assumptions, and sometimes it sharpened them. A man in seat to see leaned toward the aisle, then turned his head toward her. He cleared his throat loudly, deliberately. "That's my seat," he said. Aisha turned calmly. He was white, mid-40s, wearing a tailored gray suit with the casual confidence of someone used to being deferred to. His tone carried certainty, not curiosity. "I'm assigned here," Aisha replied evenly. He frowned. "No, you're not. I always sit by the window." "That may be your preference," she said, "but this seat is mine." He laughed, short and dismissive. "You probably misread your boarding pass." Across the aisle, a blonde woman paused with her glass halfway to her lips. 2 rows back, a younger man leaned forward slightly, eyes alert. The cabin was listening. Aisha reached into her purse, retrieved her boarding pass, and held it up. "Seat 2A, first class." He barely glanced at it. "They make mistakes all the time." The implication was clear enough that it didn't need words. A flight attendant noticed the tension and approached, her professional smile firm but cautious. "Is everything all right here?" "No," the man said quickly, pointing. "She's in my seat." Aisha handed over her boarding pass without comment. The attendant checked it, then looked back at the man. "Sir, Ms. Monroe is seated correctly. Your seat is to C." He stiffened. "That can't be right. I paid for first class." "So did I," Aisha said softly. He leaned back, arms crossing. "Are you sure?" he asked the attendant, lowering his voice. "I mean, maybe she was upgraded by mistake." The attendant straightened. "Sir, she belongs in this seat." The blonde woman shifted uncomfortably. The younger man looked down at his phone. Silence pressed in, heavy and complicit. "This is unbelievable," the man muttered. Aisha felt a familiar tension rise, a pressure she had carried in boardrooms and boutiques, hotels and conference halls. She kept her voice steady. "If there's an issue, I'm happy to wait while it's resolved." The attendant asked the man to step into the aisle. He did so reluctantly, muttering as he stood. As he passed, his shoulder brushed Aisha's arm, light but intentional. She inhaled slowly. "I don't know what this airline is coming to," he said loudly. "First class used to mean something." The words landed hard. "Sir," the attendant said firmly, "I need you to lower your voice." He pointed back at Aisha. "You expect me to believe she belongs here?" The cabin froze. Aisha felt heat rise behind her eyes, but she did not look away. "I do belong here," she said quietly. The attendant's tone sharpened. "That comment is inappropriate." "Oh, please," he scoffed. "Don't turn this into a race thing." "It became that when you questioned my right to be here," Aisha replied. The blonde woman finally spoke, hesitant. "Maybe everyone should just calm down." Aisha looked at her. "I am calm." The lead purser arrived moments later, expression controlled. The situation was explained quickly. He turned to the man. "Sir, Ms. Monroe is in her assigned seat. Your behavior is disruptive. You may take your seat, or we will involve airport security." The man glanced around, noticing the attention had shifted. Some faces showed discomfort, others showed judgment. No one looked surprised. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, returning to his seat. The attendant apologized quietly to Aisha and asked if she was comfortable. Aisha nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. As the plane pushed back, tension lingered like static. Aisha focused on the steady climb, grounding herself in routine. She had learned that dignity often required endurance. Minutes passed. Then the man spoke again, voice low but sharp. You people are always looking for problems. Aisha closed her eyes briefly. Please don't speak to me, he smirked. Figures? The purser appeared again, having heard. Sir, that is your final warning. The rest of the flight passed in strained quiet. Drinks were served, lights dimmed, conversations resumed cautiously. Aisha eventually relaxed into her seat, exhaustion settling in. She thought about how often she had to prove she belonged in places she earned through discipline and sacrifice. As the plane began its descent, the blonde woman leaned toward her. I'm sorry, she said softly. That must have been uncomfortable. Aisha met her eyes. It was. The woman nodded, then looked away, unsure what else to offer. When the plane landed, passengers stood and gathered their bags. The man avoided eye contact, pushing past quickly. Aisha remained seated until the aisle cleared, taking one last breath before standing. The flight attendant caught her eye and smiled, sincere this time. As Aisha stepped into the jet bridge, the weight lifted slightly. The seat had been defended. The moment had been witnessed. Some people believe privilege is automatic. Others know it is something they must claim, calmly and without apology, even when the sky pretends everyone is equal. As Aisha walked down the jet bridge, the air felt different, thinner somehow, as if the confrontation had stolen more energy than she wanted to admit. She kept her pace steady, shoulders back, expression neutral. She knew the look, the one that said unbothered, accomplished, unaffected. It was a look she had perfected over years of moments just like this. Inside the terminal, the noise returned all at once. Rolling suitcases rattled across the floor. Voices overlapped. Departure boards chimed softly overhead. Life moved on with an efficiency that left no room for reflection. Still, Aisha felt the weight of what had happened settle deeper now that the adrenaline was fading. She paused near a large window overlooking the tarmac, pretending to check her phone. In truth, she needed a moment. Not to cry, not to vent, just to breathe without performing strength for an audience. The words replayed in her mind. You expect me to believe she belongs here? They were never said in isolation. They carried generations of doubt, neatly wrapped in a businessman's confidence. It wasn't about the seat. It never was. It was about permission. She straightened and continued toward baggage claim. Behind her, a familiar voice spoke hesitantly. Ms. Monroe. She turned to see the flight attendant from first class standing a few steps away, her expression softer now, stripped of professional polish. I just wanted to say, the attendant began, then paused, choosing her words carefully. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, and thank you for how you handled it. Aisha studied her face, searching for sincerity. She found it. Thank you, Aisha said. I know it's not easy being caught in the middle. The attendant nodded. It shouldn't be on you to prove anything. Aisha smiled faintly. But it often is. They parted with a quiet understanding, the kind born from shared awareness rather than shared experience. At baggage claim, Aisha stood waiting as suitcases tumbled onto the carousel. She noticed the man from seat to sea across the room. He stood rigid, jaw tight, speaking sharply into his phone. He didn't look at her. He didn't need to. She knew he would carry the encounter differently. For him, it would be an inconvenience, an irritation, a story reframed later to center his discomfort. For her, it would join a long mental archive of moments she could recall without effort. Her suitcase appeared, and she pulled it free, the weight grounding her. As she walked toward the exit, she felt eyes on her again. Not hostile this time. Curious. Measuring. Some people wondered what she did for a living. Others wondered how she afforded first class. A few wondered why they had never questioned anyone else the same way. Outside, the city greeted her with late afternoon sunlight and a breeze that carried the smell of concrete and movement. A car waited at the curb. She loaded her suitcase and slid into the back seat. As the car pulled away, she finally allowed herself to exhale fully. Her phone buzzed with a message from her colleague, reminding her of the keynote she would deliver the next morning. A room full of executives. A stage. A microphone. Expectations layered thick in the air. She typed a brief reply, then stared out the window as buildings blurred past. That night, in her hotel room, Aisha stood in front of the mirror, removing her earrings, loosening her hair. Without the armor of travel clothes and composure, she looked tired, but she also looked resolute. She thought about the blonde woman's apology, the attendant's quiet acknowledgement, the silence of everyone else. She wondered how many people had seen the moment clearly and chosen comfort instead of courage. She wondered how many would remember it tomorrow. The next morning, the conference hall buzzed with energy. Screens glowed, coffee steamed, conversations hummed with ambition. Aisha stood backstage, waiting to be introduced. She adjusted her blazer, steadying herself. When her name was announced, applause filled the room. She walked onto the stage with confidence earned, not borrowed. She spoke about leadership, about inclusion, about the cost of assumptions. She didn't mention the plane. She didn't need to. The truth lived between her words. As she spoke, she noticed faces shifting. Some nodded in agreement, some stiffened, some looked away. Change, she knew, often began as discomfort. Afterward, people approached her, thanking her, questioning her, challenging her, listening. Later, alone again, Aisha reflected on the flight, on the seat, on the moment that tried to shrink her. She smiled, just slightly, because she had not moved. And sometimes, in a world that constantly asks you to make space for someone else's comfort, staying exactly where you belong is the most powerful statement of all. The following afternoon, Aisha found herself alone in the quiet lounge of the conference center. Sunlight slanting through tall windows and casting long shadows across the floor. The noise of the event had faded, leaving behind only the hum of distant conversations and the clink of coffee cups being cleared away. She welcomed the stillness. Moments like this were rare, pauses between performance and expectation. She replayed the applause from the keynote in her mind, not for validation, but for confirmation. People had listened, some had truly heard her, others would take longer. That was always the case. Progress rarely announced itself loudly. It arrived slowly, carried by repetition and refusal to disappear. Her phone vibrated again. A message from her mother, this time. Saw the photos. You looked powerful, proud of you. Aisha smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. That pride mattered. It anchored her in something deeper than public approval. As she gathered her things to leave, a young woman approached her, hesitantly. She couldn't have been more than 25, badge still stiff and new around her neck. I just wanted to say thank you, the woman said. What you talked about. It meant a lot. I've been questioning myself all day, wondering if I really belong here. Aisha met her eyes. She recognized the uncertainty instantly. She had worn it once herself. You do, Aisha said without hesitation. Even when people make you feel like you don't. The woman nodded, blinking back emotion. I'll remember that. So would Aisha. That evening, back in her hotel room, she packed slowly, folding clothes with care. Tomorrow she would fly home. Another airport, another plane, another seat. She wondered briefly if the next flight would be quieter, if neutrality would hold this time. Experience told her not to count on it. Still, she felt prepared. Not hardened, but grounded. Each moment, like the one on the plane, added weight to her presence, not burdened. She had learned to turn friction into foundation. As she zipped her suitcase, she paused, hands resting on the handle. She thought about how many people never had to think about where they belonged. How many assumed belonging without challenge, and how many others, like her, carried proof in their posture, credentials in their calm. She turned off the lights and stood by the window one last time, city lights flickering below like constellations mapped by human ambition. Somewhere out there, another person was being questioned, measured, doubted. Aisha whispered softly, not to the city, but to herself. I belong. And tomorrow, and the next day, and every time the question was asked again, she would answer the same way, not loudly, not angrily, simply by staying seated,